There's two characters that I wanted to talk about for the Sun Eater series. I mean, I didn't finish the entire series. I just read book one and two so far. I have book three. I started it. I'm like two, 3 pages in. But there's two characters, especially in the second book, that have really caught my interest. And I just wanted to do like a character analysis video of these two people. And I feel like Bassander and Switch. I think these two characters are opposites on the same side of the coin. Like, wow, like what Christopher Rocchio has done with these two characters has blown my mind. And I just want to get into like why and what this really means for the story in my opinion, like what my theories will be later on. So, in Empire of Silence, the Sun Eater book 1, Switch is a person that Hadrian meets on the planet Emish, I believe the name was, and they become friends. And Switch is like his most loyal companion, like he's his right hand man. Going into book two, Switch is with him. So, and by the way, I will be getting into spoilers. I will be getting into big spoilers, so just wanted to say that. So yeah, Switch is this character. He's his best friend. He's Hadrian's best friend, and in the book, I kind of saw this coming. So in the book, throughout the book of Howling Dark, Switch is like constantly afraid. He's constantly warning Hadrian. He's like, listen, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't know, like this is bad. This is, I'm scared. This, that, And Hadrian like kind of like keeps pushing forward. And at one point, Switch betrays Hadrian, calls in the Empire, right? He gives the coordinates of where they are, which is Vergossos, which nobody could find. Nobody knows the coordinates of. He was somehow able to send out a message to the Legion, and they come, and war starts because of that. And Hadrian is like extremely, extremely mad about this. Like, and what I like about Hadrian is the fact that he does not forgive Switch for that, because it really was life or death, not just for Switch, but for other people too. His companions. Polino, and the other characters like Valka, all these other characters, And now my comparison is that Bassander was in a way the like, okay, basically Hadrian comes to not like Switch because of that betrayal. And the ending of the book is pretty emotional, and they're both crying, and Hadrian's like, you betrayed me and everybody else to save your own hide, and we could have died, but you only cared about yourself. And Switch was like, I didn't know what to do. I thought you were dead, you were on Vergossos for so long, da 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 da. Now, Bassander Lin did not like Hadrian at the beginning of the book. I could even say that he probably hated Hadrian, even though Hadrian never hated him. Hadrian disliked Bassander, but like in the middle of the in this book, right? Hadrian kind of realizes like the reason Bassander doesn't like him is because of Hadrian's thinking. So when Hadrian meets Bassander in the first book, he says to Bassander like, "Oh, war is not the only way. We could make peace. War is like it's this thing that shouldn't be." And later on, Hadrian kind of realizes like that was the wrong thing to say to Bassander, because for a rightful reason, all the soldiers that have died, all the soldiers that have died in the war fighting for the Empire, fighting for the Legion, fighting for their planets, Bassander has seen his comrades die. So for Hadrian to say that, it's kind of disrespectful to Bassander. He's like, yo, like this guy is kind of saying like that war is pointless, and all my comrades have died in this war, like it's kind of disrespectful. So because of that, there's a lot of tension between these two characters. But by the end of the book, by the end of this book, Bassander becomes loyal to Hadrian, whereas at the beginning of the book, even in Empire Silence, Switch is the one that is loyal to Hadrian. And they both come in this like opposite direction, where Switch is loyal and he betrays Hadrian, and Bassander is like, he doesn't really trust Hadrian. He's not really loyal to Hadrian, but then he becomes loyal to Hadrian. So they're both going into opposite directions, And I think it's so cool how that's done because there's like these little build-ups, little foreshadowing into this happening. And even then, I kind of like figured that Switch would betray Hadrian. Like it was like that was obvious to me. Like when I was reading it, when they found out like, oh, somebody gave the coordinates and Hadrian got really mad. I'm like, yo, the most obvious person, the most plot twisty thing to do is to have Switch betray Hadrian, and that did happen. Okay, and yet I did not expect Bassander Lin to be completely like kneeling down to Hadrian, that came as a shock to me because yes, I did expect them to somehow form like this little bond, like this bond of like, yo, we were in this war together, we survived together, we fought together, because Bassander betrayed Hadrian too in a way. He not in a way he completely like went against Hadrian and the crew. Like he completely like turned against them, called in the empire also. Like Switch wasn't the only one. Hadrian was the sorry, Bassander was the one that like brought in the soldiers and nuked their ship. He nuked the Theosin ship. Like it's because of him the nuke happened. He didn't do it directly, but he pretty much brought in Hauptmann. He told Hauptmann that's what happened. He told Hauptmann Switch is the one that gave the coordinates. So that's how everything just went completely haywire. And yet, even when that happened, there were parts in the book where like, okay, something big happened. I don't want to get into that because then it's a whole different thing. But something happened. But Sanders saw something happen to Hadrian, and he was kind of like left in shock. And I think that was the moment where I realized I'm like, yo, Bassander and Hadrian. After Bassander saw that, he might just like shake hands with Hadrian and just form this bond with him. And that did happen, but it went above that too. He completely submitted himself to Hadrian. He completely submitted his loyalty to Hadrian Marlowe. While Switch betrayed him, he tried to come back to Hadrian, but Hadrian would not let him because it really was life or death. So these two characters going in completely opposite directions from book one to the end of book two, and I'm just wondering like what's going to happen in in the third book, in the fourth book, in the fifth book. And I do have some theories, and my theories are this. So basically, I think Bassander will die for Hadrian because Bassander saw what happened to Hadrian, and that's the reason why he submitted his loyalty. Unless somehow he betrays him, which I think it would be kind of weird at this point, like for him to betray Hadrian again after he submitted his loyalty. Because at the beginning, he wasn't loyal to Hadrian, and Hadrian wasn't loyal to him. It was just tension amongst them, and it was like beef amongst them. But this loyalty came from not from full betrayal, but from tension. While Switch's betrayal came, he was loyal, and then out came betrayal. So it's very, very different forms of like loyalty and betrayal. But I'm just wondering, like, I don't think Bassander's gonna betray Hadrian. I think he really is gonna like pure loyalty for him now because of what he saw happen to Hadrian during the war. And I think Bassander will die. I think he will sacrifice himself for Hadrian, whether it's gonna be in book three, four, five, six, or the last book. I don't know. Uh, I don't want to know. I want to read it and I want to see what happens. That's just my theory. And my other theory is that Switch will become like a pure enemy. I think some crazy plot is gonna happen where like they're like fighting against some person and they don't know who it is. Like they're causing them trouble and they find out that it's Switch. I think that's what's gonna happen. I think Switch is gonna be full on betrayal, specifically because he tried to come back to the ship. He tried to come back to Hadrian's crew, and Hadrian said no, and he left him. He left him on Vergosos, which is a crazy thing to do. He left him there. He's like, go where you want, do what you want, but you're not part of us anymore. So yeah, I think Bassander will die for Hadrian, and I think Switch will become like this full blown on enemy towards Hadrian. I think he's really gonna be like gunning down for him and try to kill him or something. But yeah, those are my theories. That's my character analysis. I just wanted to get into how these two characters started in opposite directions, ended up in opposite directions. Really cool character details. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. I said my theories. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you guys on the next one.